Hey there, Predator fans, it's Wesatron. Today we're going to be taking a look at NECA's Predator Jungle Patrol Dutch action figure. I am a huge Predator fan, and basically this has been my number one want for an action figure, Dutch as a character, not specifically this one, but my number one want for an action figure for 20 years, 23 years, something like that, since I first saw Predator. I used to have a Commando action figure that would stand in as my Dutch because they never made a Dutch. So I am thrilled to have this action figure. These are just now coming to stores in early 2013, but NECA did put up a small amount of them, I think around 40 on eBay, and he cost about $21 to get him that way. I think in stores probably be closer to 17, maybe 18 depending on where you go. But you can see they did a new box design here. In the background you see the jungle hunter, and then there's the jungle there. Hopefully you can see that. The jungle in the heat pattern. Very, very cool. Actually, as you can see, I already opened this guy up because I couldn't wait, so we can lift this down, pull this down, and look a little bit at it. You can see there's some really nice stuff going on there. Just knocked Dutch down. Back, it's got a shot of the figure. Cross cells for the line, and a little bit of bio there. Very, very cool. It's actually, I guess, more of a cap of the movie than it is a bio for Dutch in particular. What is interesting to note about this package is that on the back here, I'm going to zoom in again real quick. You'll see this is one of the early proto shots we saw. That is the Jungle Patrol Dutch, but if you look at the head, it doesn't actually match the one in this photo up here. Up here he's got kind of the grimacy look. His lip is curled up on one side. Down here, he's angry. Like he's still got that kind of grimace, but his mouth definitely doesn't match. It's a different sculpt, and the hair is a little poofier down here than it is up here, where it's a little more flat. So that's interesting to note. The version that's actually on the figure is a little bit more like this, but it even looks a little different, probably due to paint. So on the bottom here, we've got some credits. We'll zoom in again for those. So sculpt, Kyle Wendricks again, so you know it's going to be great. Fabrication, Brad Haskins, Anthony Minicino, Thomas Gwynn. We're going to have some talks about fabrication. Paint, John Wardell and Jeffrey Trapp. Again, they're staying strong over there at NECA. So I've been waiting for this guy a long time. Let's see what he looks like out of package. So here's Dutch out of package. Just doing some sort of a jungle recon, some skulking through the jungle, if you like. This figure looks really, really outstanding. I am very excited to have this guy in the collection. When I say that this is my number one want for the last 20 years, that's not an exaggeration by any means. I've always wanted a Dutch figure since I was a kid, but specifically one from NECA I've been wanting since I got into that company. So this is huge for me. This is like the holy grail of action figures. Everything on this figure looks outstanding. Very, very pleased all the way around with it. Get his gun out of his hand real quick, and we'll start with that. Here we have Dutch's M16. This is an M16 variant. I'm not sure exactly how the variant works, but basically it looks like an M16 A1 with a heat shield and an M203 grenade launcher, but for some reason, I don't know anything about M16s, this is not that. It just looks a lot like it. So very nicely done. They got some nice weathering there on the heat shield and on the M203, a little bit on the grip, and then they've got a shoulder strap here that is connected at the front and back on little hooks. So if you wanted to, I guess you could pull those off, which this isn't actually how you connect them, so if you did pull them off, it might look a little strange. But this will go over his shoulder, but because he's such a big figure, it does come off as being a little tight. But very, very cool, very nice detail. You can see the detail even of the dust cover down on the ejection port there. Very, very cool. That's a very small detail, but a neat one. Then we've got in his right holster here. You can slide it out. This is an IMI Desert Eagle. These are very, very powerful handguns. Very, very cool. They actually have like a black barrel and silver slide, because on a Desert Eagle, the whole slide doesn't shoot back. This remains stationary, while this big silver part back here, it slides back. So kind of interesting design on Desert Eagles. These are usually, I think, 50 caliber and 44, maybe? Either 44 or 45. I think 44. But yeah, very, very nicely done. Very cool. They got all of the buttons, the safety up there. Everything looks great on this. And then his other accessory is his knife. So, a little bit off model from what he had in the movie. If you remember at the end, he does a lot of like Home Alone hijinks to trap the predator, and he uses his knife, and I believe, well, for one, there should be like a grip on the knife, like almost like a corduroy wrapping. That's not present here, which isn't a huge deal, but also the back right here should have serrated edge, like sawtooth blade. So they didn't add that, but it's not a huge deal. I think this is just supposed to be green too, but that doesn't really matter. What is interesting, because I said we would talk about fabrication, is that all of these are just a hair too small. Like they were scaled just a little bit too small, just a little tiny. If you look at the knife in comparison to his hand, so you guys hand out, the knife, you can see how thin that grip is. It's really, really, really small. He doesn't hold it great anyway, just because it's not designed that way, but that's awfully thin for a knife handle. And you see the blade is quite short in his hand. It shouldn't be. This was a pretty big knife. I mean, you remember it's the one he taped to the, well, used vine to put on the end of that piece of wood to make a spear at the end of the movie. So, also a Desert Eagle here in his hands. If I can get it in his hand. For some reason, ends up being about the size of like a 9mm pistol. And Desert Eagle is not a 9mm pistol. I mean, it looks like a Beretta or a Glock or something in his hand. And granted, he's supposed to be a big guy in the movie, but Sylvester Stallone. Arnold Schwarzenegger is only 6'2", like he's my height or shorter. So a Desert Eagle in my hand is freaking huge. In his hand, it's not big enough. It's just a little too small. You can see the grip actually goes just to the bottom of his fingers. Real Desert Eagle would hang much lower. So it is a bit small there, and the same goes with the M16 variant, whatever you want to call it. You can see the grip next to his hand looks very small. So it's just, I mean, it's like off by like maybe 5%. Like the tolerance is so small, most people are not going to notice this. But it is enough for me to notice, having played airsoft and knowing a little bit about firearms. So, yeah, not a huge deal. Not like a deal breaker by any means, but just something to be aware of if you are, you know, a military fanatic, gun nut, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. So you saw both of the holsters are working on this figure. These are very soft rubber, and what's interesting is they did not attach them to the hips here. So you retain full rotation there on the hips, even though they do have the wraparounds for the drop downs. So very, very cool. So that's on both sides. So since we're already talking about detail, let's go ahead and start talking about the face. Very, very, very nice. This is that new translucent plastic that NECA is using on their figures, and it just looks great here. They did some nice detail work with the camouflage on the face. Very, very cool. It seems like on the camera it might be coming off a little bit orange. I promise you it's not. This is definitely like a peach color. Closer to like Rocky Balboa Series 1. Or I guess that's probably not the best one since this is the new plastic, but still. About that color. Great job on the hair back here. Did nice like individual strands and everything. Everything looks really great. They did the 5 o'clock shadow on his face. Well, more than a 5 o'clock shadow. He had kind of a short beard throughout the movie, so very cool. His tack vest, very accurately done. In the movie, he wore it unzipped but buttoned in the middle, because you can basically you button these things and then zip them up. In his case, he just left it buttoned and unzipped, so very casual, very cool. This is a completely separate piece. This is all an overlay, so that you could, I mean, if you wanted to, you could cut it and take it off. There's no like button to pop like on a Masters figure, but if you wanted to heat it up and slide it off, you could probably do it that way, or you could always, like I said, cut it. Underneath, you can see that he's got his camo shirt on, and it's, the camouflage is a little more pronounced here than it was in the movie. In the movie, he was kind of sweaty all the time, and the print was very faded, so a lot of times it just kind of looked dark, almost like just solid green at moments. It gets, more obvious, once we get into the DVD and Blu-ray era, but still, it's might just be a little bit too bright, but, I mean, that's ridiculous. It's not, a huge deal or anything. Most people aren't going to notice that. Musculature on the arms is really, really, really nice. Very, very cool. You can see the veins in his arms, and they've got a nice little wash on there. A little bit of black there on the forearm I could probably pick off. They did fully detail his watch. It's not fully painted in the movie. It's got like some silver on there and stuff, but still very, very cool. What's interesting to note about the arms is they are slightly asymmetrical molds. You can see, if you look very closely, this arm is turned a little bit more inwards towards the body, and this one's a little more forward, which you may not notice at first, but when you start looking at the forearms, things start to make more sense, where this one is kind of straight down like you expect on most figures. This one is turned inwards to make it work with the M16 to hold underneath the M203. So you can see this is actually like a different part of the forearm, and that's why his veins in his wrist there are upwards there, and over here they're kind of more over to the side. So that's an interesting mold choice. I've seen McFarlane like add articulation after the fact, and it kind of not work for the figure, but in this case it's not that bad. The only downside that I see really is that his hand here is very much designed to go with that look with the wrist. If you did just want to put his hands forward, you kind of got this big nub, and then the hand's just kind of tacked on the end, which looks a little silly, but it's not a huge deal. I mean, you can kind of fudge it with the ball joint in the wrist, so that's not too bad. We've got his tactical web belt here. Very cool. They, painted all the brass fittings and everything on it. Very, very cool. The old style locking, I don't even know what you call this kind of locking mechanism. Basically, you take two pieces, you turn them sideways, put them through, pull it back, and it's locked. So very, very cool. This is free floating. This whole part is, not removable. It's not like on a peg, but it does, so you can see, like, pull away from the body. And underneath, you can see there's another belt holding the pants up. Very cool. The whole middle piece here, like his whole crotch piece here, is all a soft rubber. You can see that. And that's so that it doesn't impede articulation anyway. Great, great camo pattern on the pants. Awesome, awesome work there. They did a great job at replicating it at this scale. I don't think they're probably too bright, not like the same way that the shirt is. I think they look pretty much right on. Very, very cool. We got great detail down in the boots. Very, very nicely done. Nice texturing on them. Very cool. You can see there's even a little bit of like mud down there. Bottom of the boots are somewhat sculpted. The middle's cut out for them to do like licensing stuff. And then there are peg holes on the bottom. On the back, you'll see, you can see a lot more of his shirt back here, and his tack vest can kind of slide out of the way. And on his actual joint sections, you can see some of the paint is already scraped off where I've been moving them, but they did actually paint these all the way across, but it looks like green joints underneath. So, very, very cool action figure. Really, really like the look of it. As far as the likeness, let me set him down for a second. We'll get another guy in here. And here's Dutch next to NECA's Conan. Very, very cool figure on his own, although lacking in articulation. But I just want to show you a comparison of the face sculpts there. I think it may just be because this one is new to the new style plastic. It doesn't have as much paint on it. But I think this figure might actually beat him out slightly in terms of sculpt. I think this one looks a little bit more like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I think it all comes down to the mouth. This one, the mouth is in a bit more of a, maybe a growl or a grimace, as we said before. Whereas this one is a little more serene, so this one looks a little bit more like the Governator. So yeah, not a huge deal, but this one also looks a slight bit older, which is interesting because he was very young when he made Conan. And not that he wasn't young in Predator, but he was just a little bit older. So yeah. Articulation-wise, we got a lot of great things going on with this figure. NECA pretty much did the works with their new articulation system, and I'm very excited. First off, we start with the ball-jointed head. This ball-jointed head is excellent. Okay, we get first, well, let's do first from the front. Got this great left and right. Look at this. Awesome, awesome left and right. And of course, you get your turning action and everything. We get down quite a bit, but this is what's really exciting for me, because this is a Predator action figure. He can actually look very far up, too. So that's awesome. You can recreate that scene. He's using the trees. You know, that's awesome. I love that. That may have been just a total accident on NECA's part, but judging from the way that the neck is designed back here, with that little bit of space between the back of the head and the neck, I think they actually did design it specifically so that he could look up. You know, so that's really cool for dioramas. That's really cool just in general, just to have your Dutch posed looking up. That's very cool. In the shoulders, we have swivel hinges. They go out to about there, and of course go all the way around. Swivel hinges in the elbows, so they get about 90 degrees, and then swivel left and right. They do hold, as you saw, his rifle perfectly, and also a very convincing two-handed pistol hold as well. We looked a little bit before at the ball hinges in the wrist, but just so you can see, this one sticks a little bit for me. This one's much smoother. I don't have any problems with this one. We've got double ball joint in the shoulder, or in the midsection, and then another one in the waist, very similar to David, and the Rocky and all those others. But basically, we've got a lot of motion, left, right. This is my left and right, or rather, his left to right. Forward, we go forward about that far, back about that far. So very nice range there. Dutch has got some good motion for doing, as we said in his title, his Jungle Patrol. So very, very cool, very convincing. We've got 90 degree angle swivel hinge, swivel hips. So we can go straight forward, very far, back, very far. As you can see, the rubber is bunching up here, so it doesn't impede articulation at all. Out to the sides, plenty far. And then we've got a swivel up here in the top of the thigh, which you may be able to see once I turn. There we go. So very, very cool. Lots of range up there. Swivel hinge in the knees, so they hinge a little less than 90 degrees. Not perfect, but still good. And swivel around. And then he's got that great same ball-jointed foot that David's got, where he's got this great, back motion very far, even more than David, really. And then forward very far. And then the great in and out. So, I mean, that's awesome that he can go that deep with it and still stay flat-footed. It's very cool. Yeah, so articulation-wise, this guy is banging. Just absolutely awesome. Very excited. I did just notice that this part just fell out. This is basically the retention, I guess, strap that goes over his gun, and it plugs right in here to the side. I already glued this back once earlier in the evening, and it looks like it's popped out again, so I would say that that's just going to stay popped out. You can see that there's a slot basically right up in there that fits into, and that has, I guess, proved that it's not going to hold. The way it basically works is, once the gun is in here, you would pull that piece over here, but since it's at an angle and not laying flat against the plastic, I would say that every time you tug on it, you run the risk of pulling it out. So if I were you, unless yours is very loose on there, like there's a lot of slack, I wouldn't buckle it on there. I'd just leave it open, because now that it's come off a second time, I'm not going to bother gluing it again. I'm just going to throw it in the parts bag. So, yeah, this guy, as I said, I paid about $21 for before shipping. I got him and the new Jungle Hunter. So, yeah, $20, definitely. For me, I'm not going to even pretend that I'm not completely biased when it comes to this guy. This is my favorite movie. This is the figure I've been waiting for my whole life, pretty much. So this is everything that I wanted out of this action figure. I'm very excited to have him. I got nothing bad to say about him. Like I said, the only real problems I ran into were the fabrication on the weapons, and that's certainly not what makes Dutch his weapons. So I'm very excited to have him. Yeah, absolutely worth it. $25, heck yeah, go for it. This is my guy, and I'll back him up. So real quick, I just do want to get him in here with the new Jungle Predator. And here's Dutch next to Jungle Hunter, or Predator 1, whatever you want to call him. And you can see there's a nice scale difference between them. I'm going to pull back just a little bit so you can see that a little better. Kevin Peter Hall was 7 foot something, and Arnold Schwarzenegger, like I said, is about 6'2". So very nice difference in scale between them. And what's cool is, because of his great neck articulation, Predator can look down at him, but Dutch can also look up at him. So very, very cool. Nice standoff look there. Yeah, very excited to get this figure. Absolutely go get him. Pay whatever you have to. Sell your kids toys. Sell your kids if you have to. Just get this action figure. He's awesome. Out of the park for NECA. As biased as I am, I have to say that it's the best figure they've ever done. So, yeah, love it. Pick it up. And we'll be reviewing this guy and comparing him to some of the older Predators, so get ready for that. And yeah, thanks guys for stopping by. If you have any questions or comments, anything I glossed over, anything you'd like to know about, feel free to hit me up in the box below. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have. If you do like this video, make sure you check out my other videos on here. Subscribe if you're not already, and you'll see all my NECA updates as they show up. So thanks a lot, guys, and I will talk to you later. Bye.